What we must come to see, and what we do come to see in self-realization, is that the mind is limited. The mind is a limited instrument, which means that it cannot fathom, it cannot understand, it cannot comprehend truth, the infinite nature of truth, the infinite nature of reality. The mind can only deal with information, limited, finite information. And then it puts those bits and pieces of information together to try to make sense of things, using language. All of this is memory. What we call the mind is essentially memory. It is all an accumulation of memory. And for most beings, what they are doing is, every day they wake up and they are remembering, which means the putting together of memory. They are remembering who they think they are, and what they think the world is. And how our whole education system is based on that. It is based on acquiring, accumulating, absorbing information, memorizing it, getting rewarded for memorizing it, and then holding that memory. And what this does is it means that many beings do not see through the eyes of the present. They see through the eyes of the past. They can't see this moment as it is. They only can see life, this moment, themselves, as they think that it is based on their past information. This means that a being is doomed to repeat certain cycles, to repeat history, which is his story, which is memory. It's the idea of what happened, the interpretation of what happened. That's all memory. So an unliberated being is a being that is living through past memory, and they are stuck in loop, in Groundhog Day, repeating the same cycles because they are stuck in the past of who they think they are and what they think life is. This is what the mind does. This is what society encourages. It encourages people to rest upon the assertions of concepts, to rest in belief systems. Belief system is of the mind. It is an idea, it's an assumption. What many beings take themselves to be is what I call the assumed self, based on past memory and information. They say, I am my name. That's a past concept. That's memory. They have to remember who they think they are as that name to say, this is who I am. They have to remember all the things they seem to have done, all the things they seem to have achieved. They have to remember their personality, where they came from, their town, their city, their race, their religion. It's all memory. And what happens is that a being carries and drags that memory through into the present, in which they cannot see the present as it is. So this is to see the difference between past perception, which is memory, and direct perception. For self-realization, for freedom, direct perception is mandatory. There is no other way to come into contact with reality than to step out of the mind. To step out of the mind is direct perception. It is to see life through the present, not through the past. Now, this is very much tied to the soul trap effect. The soul trap effect is being caught in these cycles, feeling trapped in those cycles, going round and round and round, and it seems that no matter what a being does, they seem to continue to repeat the same cycles over and over. It is the perpetual Groundhog Day. And the biggest cycle, of course, is the soul cycle. To die, then to be reborn. To die, to be reborn. To die, to be reborn. To die, to be reborn. because there is some pattern there that a being is identified with, that they think is who they are on some level, that is keeping them stuck in that loop. There is something that they are believing to be true, which is keeping them stuck in that loop. And until they wake up from that belief, until they snap out of that illusion, the soul trap effect will continue on and on and on. And it will continue to be manifested, because the mind is powerful in this way. What a being believes creates a certain energy towards that, in which it then reinforces it, and it actually starts to become that way. It's like life is like a mirror. If you think of life like a mirror, what we call life in terms of the circumstances, things that you see, it's like a mirror. So if somebody is remembering something that they think is true, that they think is who they are, they put energy towards that, and that is actually what they are putting out. And then life seems to mirror that back to them. He says, yes, your belief is correct. You believe this about yourself, so this is what you will get evidence for. We will now show you evidence to support your belief. And everybody else will support you in that belief. Yes, you are like that. This is your personality. It's a mirror. The only way to break that cycle is you got to step out of the mind altogether, because the mind is what is creating that mirror effect, which is giving you then a reflection of what you are thinking. A good way for us to think about this is you think of social media on YouTube. What happens is when you have an account on YouTube, whatever content you begin to watch, YouTube starts to throw up more of that content for you to watch. Now, if you notice, if you then stop watching that kind of content, not immediately, YouTube does not discontinue what you were watching before. It still throws you up old things that you were interested in before. It takes a little while for it to catch up. There's a bit of a delay, a drag, a lag. But eventually, if you be consistent with a new topic, it will then continue to bring up that topic, and then the old topics will dissolve. They'll not show up anymore, very rarely. So in a way, YouTube and social media is acting like a mirror. It's reflecting back whatever you're looking for. What we call life is very much the same way. Whatever you are searching for is what it will show you. You'll find evidence to support that. Now the problem comes in when you believe certain things to be true, because now you are rigidly stuck in that repetition of creating that mirror effect. And of course, if a being believes that they need to be in this world, that they are attached to things, that they desire certain things, that they have unfinished business, then of course they're going to get pulled back into that cycle. Their energy is going in that direction, so where attention goes, energy flows. If the attention is on something, being attached to something, desiring something, fearing something, then the energy goes in that direction, and so you get pulled and sucked back into that direction. It becomes a very unconscious process. But as a being awakens to what they are, through direct perception, to come into contact with truth, reality, then they break that cycle, and they're not stuck in those patterns anymore. That the way out is to go beyond the pointers, to go beyond the mind, to go beyond the concepts. This is the only way to arrive at truth, which is always here, always in front of you, always around you. You are that. But it just needs to be realized, needs to be recognized. Once you realize it, it sets you free.
It all just suddenly just dissolved. like fell apart. I did not feel myself moving anywhere. Like I did not fly out of the body. I did not travel. I felt that I'm still in that same spot, at that same place. I'm still there, but everything around me disappeared. And instead of this hospital room, now I was perceiving void, just black darkness, like empty darkness. And this field of like, hard to describe because it felt like so endless, and black is the color that I put to it, but there was no surface. There was like nothingness, emptiness. And that was very weird, a very unusual feeling. And in this void, I saw one light in the distance. And it felt like in this black cosmic space, you see one little star. And that little star, it grabbed my attention because there was like basically nothing else to look at. I felt myself staring at that one light. And I knew at that point that light is trying to get my attention. And that light is asking for my attention. It's like pulling my attention. But I knew that if I focus on it, if I give in to that calling, it will suck me in. I had that knowing that it wants me to come to it, towards it, like to fly towards the light. It's gonna turn into a tunnel and it's gonna suck me in. I felt like I'm not gonna go because this attitude of not willing to do something that something else wants me to do, it's just something about me. I had this attitude all throughout my life. That's why I did not go towards that light. My reaction was to just stay where I'm at. If that light wants us to interact, it has to come closer. That feeling I had, that's why I did not move. I kept standing in that spot, in this void, perceiving that light, but not moving towards it. And still seeing it, I noticed that as I focus my attention on it, I'm kind of pulling it out of the darkness. It like starts coming out of the darkness towards me. It's moving towards me. And as it gets closer, I realize that this piece of light, this particle of light, is actually a concept. And when it gets very close, I realize it's a concept of my mother. And then once I perceive this concept of my mother, I notice that there are few more stars like it just next to it. And I focus my attention on the next one. As I focus on it, I'm kind of like pulling it out of that darkness towards myself. When it gets close enough, I realize that that's a concept of my brother. And I do the same thing with the third light, and that's the concept of a telephone. And I do the same thing with the next one, that's a concept of car. And I realize at that point, these concepts are parts of a thought, the last thought that I had right before I got switched off in the hospital. I remember myself looking at the wall and thinking that it's already so late at night and my mother doesn't even know where I'm at. I should have called my brother so that he could pick me up by car because the road is long. So these concepts of mother, brother, telephone, car, and road are like my last thought. But when I was in hospital room thinking it, I was not aware that this thought consists of these specific concepts. And here it was all kind of like slowed down. And I was here thinking that one by one, concept by concept, moving from one piece of light to another one, I was thinking a thought. And I noticed myself, once I was done with 6 of them, I would come back to the first one again. And I was doing it in a loop. It's a circle. I'm just going in a loop, thinking this one thought over and over. I did it like for a few times. And then I felt that kind of like my powers are leaving me. I felt like I don't have any more energy to keep thinking this complicated thought. That's how it felt to me. And at one of these circles, I realized that I lost an element. I lost something there. I lost like one of those lights. Like I didn't have enough power to keep holding them all together. So one of them just drifted away into the darkness and I was not able to pull it out. And that was the first concept to disappear, was the concept of my mother. I felt like I've lost something, some concept there I forgot, but I did not remember what it was. So I basically forgot even the idea of having a mother, not just my specific mother. I forgot completely that there is such a thing as mothers and that I had one. Basically, it was just like completely erased from my awareness. Then the next thing I forgot was having a brother. That was the second concept to lose. So I kept trying to think that one thought over and over, but it was already like, there was like phone, car, road, and I kept trying to focus on it. Like I put all of my energy into thinking that thought. But after a while, I felt like I kind of lost point. Why am I even doing it? It doesn't make any sense. And I just kind of let the third one go and the next one go. And I felt no more point to keep doing that. And once I let all the concepts go, dissipate into that darkness, into that void, the last one that I was left with is the concept of me.